Welcome back. This is Last Call, where the gloves come off and we really get laid back. Although I'm not exactly sure how more laid back we can get, given the
one more drink
quality of the stream tonight so far. Yeah, so good to see everybody back, or as we got back. Thank you for sticking around tonight. In Last Call, we're going to talk about Kickstarters, everybody's favorite topic these days, and more importantly, what do we all think on the purpose of Kickstarter originally and the purpose of Kickstarter today? For my 2 cents, the Kickstarter of today is not the Kickstarter I started with back in 2014 when I funded my laser engraver out of virtually nothing. I had an idea and some Photoshop skills, and convinced people that I say convinced like it was a scam. I mean, I talked people into supporting me and getting my little business up off the ground, and it worked. It worked great. But there is zero chance today that I would be able to produce the same Kickstarter page, I guess, and make it successful the way I was back then. So what are your thoughts in general on what is the purpose of Kickstarter today, and how have they changed over the last couple of years?
Brian?
I could go on and on and on about this. And in fact,
you might be able to.
I'm not an expert on it at all, so I just put too much money in it.
It really, really bums me out to think about this, because so from a small business owner's perspective who made it because of Kickstarter, I completely share your sentiments. Okay. But I'm friends with numerous game store owners who say the same things, that Kickstarter is, okay, let me back up. Kickstarter is not ruining the industry. It's companies that don't belong on Kickstarter that are ruining the industry.
Right.
So you'll see many, many game companies and board game companies are really guilty of this. If you're already a multi-million-dollar company, you really don't need to be on Kickstarter. And so
Kickstarter, kickstart your business is the words that they've forgotten in there.
That's exactly right.
Like their mantra.
But the problem, I think, lies in the fact that it's not the game store's fault, because you know what? If you said, hey, instead of 50% of the money, you could have 90% of the money, I'm going to do it too, right? But no one at Kickstarter is actually monitoring these and saying, look, you're too big for us. You don't need to be here, because they're getting a percentage of the money, right?
Right.
So it's not about that startup business. It's not about you coming with a passion project and people helping you bring to life. It's now about, hey, it's a virtual shelf. I'm getting sweet swag. I'm getting something that's I can't buy on the game store shelf. They're completely cutting distribution and game stores right out of the hobby. So just think about that. Anytime that you buy anything on Kickstarter that's not a small indie press business, you are literally dooming the game stores.
Right. Oh yeah, 100%. So any of those, and somebody mentioned Come On in there, but any of the businesses that are producing these mega miniature games with 120 pieces, and and everybody that wants to spend that kind of money on that game is going to get it right out of Kickstarter. And God, what was that one the other day, or not the other day, a year or so ago, the big one that everybody got, and I never even saw it in a store, and I wanted to get it. I just wait. I'm not going to get to Kickstarter. What's that? Gloomhaven.
Kingdom Death?
Yeah.
Gloomhaven.
Oh, okay.
Gloomhaven's what I'm thinking of, but that's a perfect example, and that's one of the ones, at least for me, that I remember. Like, oh, okay, so Kickstarter is just a pre-order system now. What?
Right.
So I know we've all just kind of suffered through our own Kickstarter for Wizco games, but what are your thoughts, Danny, on Kickstarters in general? So like as a consumer going to look at the website, when you see things like, and right now I just put a blog post up on wizco.games for it's Quest RPG, and yeah, it's the text is not formatted. It just looks like the guy typed and typed and typed forever. I'm not bashing on the guy as far as his willingness to put all that information up there, but compared to some of the other things, other production, full up like website production pages out there, what are your thoughts when you look at somebody who is clearly just trying to get up off the ground versus an established company?
Well, at the risk of being the contrarian, which is not unusual for me, obviously.
No.
We count on it.
No.
I would say that this is the future, and you're either on this train or you're not. And I think that it's people will hate on me for saying it, but the friendly local gaming store might be going the way of the buggy whip manufacturer. You know, there's a time and a place for physically going out and buying products, but then there comes a point when the industry shifts. Every industry shifts. And I think that the thing that people don't want to hear is that you're not going to be able to go someplace and hang out with like-minded nerds at the corner and have a Mountain Dew out of that weird little fridge every game store has, and and all that. But not weird, bad, weird, like awesome. But I think that it is a pre-sales. I take Brian's point completely, and I agree with it. You know, some of these things are going to come out, and only a certain number of people are going to get them. And so you're dealing with a limited resource. Beetle and Grimm's, how many did they make? 1,000?
Was it even that many?
Or maybe not, but whatever they made, right?
Let's say 1,000.
1,000 of them. All right. Hey, not everybody gets a Frank Lloyd Wright chair. Sorry. You know, and that's terrible for the part of me that's very egalitarian and wants everybody to share the wealth. But part of me that is, you know, a little more hard-nosed about business is like, hey, I only made so many of these, and you get to have one. And there's a premium price attached because I'm only going to make so many. So, like when I signed out of Matt Colville's, I just backed his Kingdoms and Warfare book, right? He's going to make another $2 million.
Okay. Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I'm chomping a bit.
And he was nobody.
Go,
he was nobody.
Fight. Sorry.
All right. So we've got people making multi-million dollars on Kickstarter. I'll give Colville his due. He absolutely deserved it. And he was a small company at that time. All right. However, when you have Cool Mini or Not coming along and putting every single board game out to Kickstarter, every time a big company comes along and does this, yes, they can produce a super high quality product, which is premium, which is awesome. And yes, you're right. It's really cool that some people can purchase those. However, I think the point that I'm trying to drive home is it drowns out the voice of every other would-be artist who has an idea and a dream and has gone to Kickstarter to fulfill that. There might be amazing books out there that never get published because no one hears them. No one sees them. No one backs them. You know, I think it's a very scary time because there's really talented people out there who just simply don't have the capital to make this new idea come to life because they get drowned out. And when you're scrolling through Kickstarter and you're like, that looks like a guy with a dream who can't afford art. Yeah, I'm not going to back that. It could have been an amazing product if you had. You know, the next Cool Mini or Not Zombicide, it's going to be good whether you back it or not. It's going to be at the shelf of the game store whether or not you back that product. And when you go to the game store, you are actually supporting your community. You're helping other gamers find games. You're bringing people together. Wow, I'm all fired up.
Yeah, I would say all those are completely valid points, but it's kind of, to me, this is a super controversial subject in my opinion on it.
Well, so I think the line in the sand can be drawn at the platform itself. Should there be a gatekeeper for the level? Is there another site needed? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's
innovation. Innovation is the solution to this problem. If you don't like the Kickstarter that exists, make a better one. Or not you,
new Kickstarter. Got it.
New Kickstarter. Hey, we'll get that on the Wednesday agenda. But seriously, I just think that isn't that always true? There used to be gatekeepers called TSR and Wizards of the Coast, and they said it's our thing and you can use it if you license from us. Then they opened it. And I think what it gave people was this false illusion that they were going to be able to be successful. Oh, that book about bards I've always wanted to write. You know, like, but so what? Your fucking book on bards sucks. And it probably always was going to. You finally got to write it. I hope you got it out of your system, but that's the way it is. Kickstarter comes along and it reignites that whole thing. And those dudes, you know, speaking about Gamehole Con, Brian, remember those cats who made the plastic walls, right? This is two dudes who just came up with a mold. They figured out what it would take. They ran a $20,000 Kickstarter. They got funded for 150 grand, and they bought out the whole upper mezzanine of Gamehole Con and sponsored that as a thank you to the community and obviously a marketing opportunity. But they had open gaming up there sponsored by them. To me, you can still succeed on Kickstarter. You might not be able to succeed at Splatbooks or board games right now, but I see Cool Mini or not, they just looked at the landscape and they're like, well, I don't have to deal with distribution. I don't have to deal with printing these things until I know I've sold them. Like, to do it the other way is like putting an arm behind your back and saying, let's fight this guy. You know, I can't blame anybody for using it. And I just don't know how you'd control it. Like, you'd say, you're too big. Sorry, you're too big. You can't come in.
Right. I don't want to make money. Go on. Take your business elsewhere. No, it's not going to happen.
Right. So I just don't, but I also think that these sites that are so influential, their lifespans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. The next Kickstarter will be here in the next 2 years. It already is, probably. We just haven't heard about it. So eventually it'll become niche. It defines itself, right? Eventually it becomes known as this thing. And eventually something else will come along that people can glom onto, and that'll be better. You know, it'll answer your questions, Matt. Like, what the fuck's up for the little guy? Maybe there'll be littleguymoney.com will come down next, and they will have a rule that says
littleguymoney.com.
If you have not published yet, you don't pay fees.
Right.
You know, or they'll come up with a model that will attract people, small folks like us again. I mean, as much as I have problems with some of the parts of capitalism, that part is pretty decent.
And really, it comes down to it really just comes down to us, because Kickstarter is not going to police that. Okay. But we as consumers can. We can decide what we spend our money on. And I think that's really what I'm pitching here is that, hey, you know, when you're looking at Kickstarter and trying to decide, well, should I back that next $100, you know, board game, or could I spend $10 a piece on 10 different small indie press companies? That's going to make a huge impact to them versus the board game company.
I think Kickstarter is becoming more and more like LinkedIn. It's a network of people that understands what you can do, and they're basically considering hiring you. They'll pay $120 to get your thing, and there's 1,000 of them that'll do it. And now you've got your 120 grand, and that keeps you alive and your family alive for, you know. So I appreciate that, you know, local game stores do a lot for the community, but Kickstarter can keep your ass alive. You know, they can keep you doing what you want to do. And
then even get you into those game stores.
Yeah, potentially. But, you know, just imagine, you know, if I have to publish a book and then guess about how many I'm going to sell versus I know exactly how many I'm going to sell. What were you going to say, Matt? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I don't disagree at its core with anything you're saying as far as, yeah, of course they're going to take the path of least resistance. Of course they're going to go and not have to deal with publishing, game stores, distribution, all that. They've got all that wrapped up in a nice package. I don't disagree with any of that at all. It just seems like there should be, it's not a difficult problem to solve for Kickstarter if they wanted to solve it. I just, like Brian said earlier, Kickstarter has no incentive to solve that problem either, but they've gone way away from what I think their original purpose was. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Like you said before, there are definitely people out there that have a new and innovative idea that walk away with plenty of money to fund their project and then some.
Mhm.
I suppose it's just those little indie projects that aren't able to. I mean, they just can't even rise above the noise level anymore.
The expectation of a much more polished page, the proof of concept being pretty much done and sitting on the virtual shelf. That's the expectation today, and it's the fault of these ginormous corporations that are putting their products there and drowning out the signals of all the small companies.
See, that's what I'm wondering about, though. Like, so I obviously agree with you, but like, what does that look like in the real world? And my reaction to that generally would be the ginormous company in our industry is Wizards.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do Kickstarters.
They don't.
So
they could,
but they don't, because they already have what they don't need it in this truest sense. They can do it better than Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. So Paizo doesn't do it, right?
So actually, hold on.
They did. Didn't they do one or two?
Did they do one? So my only point is this. It's very short. Is that like when we say, well, hey, I just have this book and it doesn't have very good art, but I want your money. Fuck you. I don't want to give you my money. You got to figure out a way to have a very good book with very good art. That's what you need to figure out. Then you have a right to say to me, I want your money. So if your product is inferior, it's not, that's why it fails, not because somebody else is stepping on you. Because I'm not really sure how that happens. Do you think it's because it's sucking up all the money? Because like I just bought my Cool Mini or Not game, so now I'm not going to buy.
That absolutely is a factor. Yeah.
Okay. That may be.
And if I'm giving you the impression that I think that the companies themselves are stepping on the little guy, that's not the case. There's just good. There's a noise level. The term we use in the Air Force, I guess. There's a noise level that just the signal can't rise above for a lot of the new guys that would otherwise have a pretty compelling product because of the come-ons. God, what was the other big one the other day I saw? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Pick your
established companies with multi-million-dollar revenue.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're really talking about. Somebody who's making $10 million, basically, to some thinking, should not really be using Kickstarter.
No, not in my opinion.
Right.
And I have a hard time letting those words come out of my mouth because I don't think there's any reason that they shouldn't. It just doesn't seem like it's a difficult problem to solve that you have indies and there's an indie Kickstarter section, and then there are established, multi-million-dollar company XYZ. You're the Fortune 50 of Kickstarter companies, right. And if you're going to go shop for Fortune 50 products, you can go here. Otherwise, here's all your indie guys. Go look there for.
I don't sense that there's anything special about being egalitarian about everybody being in the same tier. So I agree with you. I mean, if you were able to create a tiered system where you're like up and coming, scrappy fighters versus established players. Yeah.
Because anybody who wants a come on game, anybody who wants the next Zombicide, they're going to go straight to that and go for it.
And you know what? Why aren't these giant companies going, hey, you know what? We just made $15 million on Kickstarter. I'm going to take 15,000 and start backing projects that I see on Kickstarter. That never happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, thanks for all the success that Kickstarter and all of you brought us, but fuck the rest of you guys. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing if they actually trickled it down or paid it forward?
Well, it's Darwinian, and somebody's got their finger on the fast forward button, so. I'm sure the people at Kickstarter are thrilled to be able to announce the Matt Colville record breaker and the CMON thing. I can't imagine they wouldn't be. Yeah, man, it's a tough thing. I think too, like there is a lot to be said about how I think there's a really specific way that you launch and do it. Like you have to be doing a certain amount in that first hour. Like a whole bunch of tricks that nobody ever talks about. We talk about Colville like coming out of nowhere, but that guy's no joke. Like he was building his YouTube stream. He was building his Reddit, really critical Reddit. because Reddit is credibility. They should call it creditability. And if you can build credibility there, he doesn't do shit on Facebook at all. He barely does like Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube. And he built up an audience of 100 and some thousand. And once he had that,
Yeah, he's on Twitch. So.
Yes. So I wonder what the audience for some of these big companies is. Like Cool Mini or not, probably, because they're so visual, they probably do have huge audiences. But like some of these other people that are going in and scooping up this cash, they're just doing it because they can. You know, they're not building a ground up, you know. But Matt Colville's no joke. Like he really built it slowly and very thoughtfully to get to the point where he was famous. And I think that's the real trick, honestly. Get famous. Best thing you can do. Become an influencer. Best thing you can do.
Brian, get on that. Get on that, Brian.
We're not famous.
Slow march.
The product is the people.
Right.
The product is the people, not the product. The product just falls off the back of the wagon when you have the right people together.
Because
you heard it here first, folks.
I have bought products from very famous or influencer people that's just complete and utter trash. Okay, I may have even played some of those adventures.
Are you naming names?
And I'm not going to name any names, but Chuck, if you're listening, you know who we're talking about. You know, so it's you're often buying the name or supporting the person or the company that you love.
Patreon,
you know
Patreon might be the.
I know who you're talking about.
The Patreon may be the heir apparent, honestly, to Kickstarter.
Sure.
Because now you're creating a fandom.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just selling a product. I mean, Kickstarter's always been about giving me money to make a thing. Patreon is about giving me money to be me and do a thing, create an experience, whatever it might be. I don't know.
Right.
And speaking of, go ahead.
No, there's like, I don't know, nearly 5,000 people that follow Total Party Kill Games on Facebook, you know, okay? We wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be able to give them what they love if it had not been for Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because I would never be able to pull that much money out of my family life and fund, you know, the crazy awesome things that we've done. So I really feel strongly about Kickstarter and what it is allowing small creators to do. And yet I don't disagree with you. Like the Matt Colvilles, I mean, they made something really, really cool and it resonated, and that's why they made so much money. But Cool Mini or not, or any other ginormous company that comes along and needs to fund their video game, don't even get me started on video games.
Well, if you look at the entertainment industry too, my buddy Neil's out in California making movies.
They did Kickstarter.
Now they have to put together a slate of movies. You don't go and say, hey, I want to make a movie about a boy and his dog in the middle of Texas. You got to go and say, I'm going to make 2 horror movies. I'm going to make a sci-fi movie. I've got Tom Cruise interested in this one. And by the way, once all that gets made, I'll have $1 million left over to make my little story about a kid in Texas and his dog. Like it's true everywhere. The way that money gets sourced keeps changing because people keep gaming it, you know?
Right.
So, you know, I still think the trifecta is put out stuff, get your name out there, be on YouTube, show your personality, get a patron, get patrons. And then every once in a while, when the good idea bubbles up, you got 1,000 people who are gamers. They all say that's a fucking great idea and I will buy it the minute you launch it. You take that 1,000 people and get 10,000 more.
Right.
And I think that's the model. Kickstarter is just part of it now. It's just the end. It's for the big cash infusion. The rest of it's just walking around money.
Right.
So it sounds like we're saying we need to lean on Jimmy for his personality in order to get some more followers. Is that what?
Hey, Jimmy's the fucking king.
Maybe I make it
Jimmy's the king.
Chief Reject.
Jimmy's the king of Texas. I don't mess with Jimmy.
And speaking of Patreon, we are, if you're lucky enough to be sitting here with us for these last 15 or 20 minutes, congratulations. Last call is going to Patreon only. So you can watch it live. You'll be able to continue to watch it live in our stream, but the recorded version, go back. All the shares and all that will be on our Patreon. So if you would like to support us, like what we're doing, and want to keep watching and helping us out, give us a little couch change. You can do that at patreon.com/wizardscouch.
And hey, I don't think I'm giving anything away to say that Matt just handed over to me a transcript today, and we have all been busy little beavers working on stuff. I have been finishing up a map and some other art, and we've been working with some other artists as well. We got something cool and new coming out on Patreon, and our current patrons know about it a little bit, right?
Yeah, they know. Yeah,
they know. But the rest of the world doesn't. The only way you're going to find out is if you find one of those patrons and put them up against the wall and force them to tell you, or
just join Patreon.
Yeah. And less litigiously or illegal, you could simply join us for $1 a month. $1. You can't even buy Funyuns for $1.
Think about it.
That's a whole other tragic show.
That's a crime.
Even if you don't care about the publishing or the last call, maybe you just want to help support buying us alcohol.
Maybe you just look at us and you feel sorry. You're like, oh God, is this what they've come to?
Yes, it really is.
I mean, did the idea that $1 would make Danny happy? I mean, how
you're gonna look like
sad is that? But it will make me happy. It will. Well, it'll be a quarter because I got to split it with these guys. But either way, that 25 cents.
Holy
Did you just get attacked by a spider, Jimmy? What the heck?
No, Yellow Jacket just flew, and I'm like sitting there all of a sudden, dive bombing me, and my mouse has now got Yellow Jacket goo. I was messing with Matt, so I put his old picture back on, and as soon as I did it was like karma. Damn thing dive bombed me, man. God almighty.
Hey, where are we going to be together next, folks? Game Hole or Gary Con?
Gary Con, yeah. God, we got to do a Game Hole Con show, guys. We got to We got to talk about the show because a lot of cool things happened.
Yeah, we'll be there. Yeah, for sure. We can do that. I think we can do that on the off week or something.
Yeah, we should. We definitely
should. We'll all be at Gary Con coming up in March. So look for us then. And I think from all of us,
I hope everybody there. I'm going to be speaking on a panel.
Jimmy's on a panel. Jimmy's on a panel.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you from Danny, Jimmy, Brian, and myself. Have a great night. And last call out.
See you guys. Take care.
Adios.